Since we talked about the story of Venti last time, who was the first Archon to be introduced, I figured it'd be fitting to now also cover the story behind the second Archon to be introduced, the Geo Archon Zhongli, aka Rex Lapis, Morax, Vago Mundo, aka to some as Daddy. Also, well, technically former Archon, but we'll get into that later. Just like the many other Archons, Zhongli wasn't always the Geo Archon. In fact, Zhongli isn't even his real name. It's a name that he gave to his mortal vessel once he finally decided to live among his people. Basically, just like how Venti is actually called Barbatos. Zhongli's actual name is Morax. His true form is unknown, although in the past he has appeared as half dragon, half Qilin. The latter is an animal that originates from Chinese mythology. For the purpose of this video though, seeing how most people know him as just Zhongli, I'll refer to him as that. First of all, he's most definitely one of the oldest gods alive in Genshin. And for a fact, he's the definite oldest of the 7, aged at over 6,000 years old. He's a grandpa. With that age though, it's not surprising that he has an incredible amount of experience under his belt, knowing heaps about the lands of Teyvat and Liyue in particular. Far, and I mean super far in the past, even before the Archon War, Zhongli was already known as the Lord of Geo. One day, when walking through a field of glazed lilies, Zhongli met a young woman. This woman turned out to be none other than Guizhong. If you don't know who she is, she's the god of dust and the ruler of the realm of the clouds. Maybe that rings a bell for the ones who have attempted the voyage to the sanguine sky domain. The two of them grew very close. And at one point, Guizhong handed Zhongli a stone lock as a token of their pledge to each other, telling him it's also her challenge to him, as according to her, all of her knowledge is locked away inside. This very lock is also the 5-star catalyst known as Memory of Dust. Which, first of all, if you pulled that instead of the Polar Star, I am sorry, but the next time you look at it, at least you'll know what part it played in the story of Zhongli. So there's that, I guess. From then on, they formed an allegiance, assured that with his brawn and her brains, this city will surely become a great one. It was an allegiance, both for their separate reasons and gains, yet caring deeply about one another. Together with the rest of their people, they moved up north of the mountains, safe and protected by Guizhong defenses, as you might have come across when helping Chi-Chi finding the Coco Goat. If you're curious about where exactly they moved, it's this area on the current map, which they dubbed Guili Plains. Notice it yet? They named it after themselves, Gui from Guizhong, Li from Zhongli's alias at the time, which is unknown as of yet. And so, the Guili assembly was established, ruled over by both of them, together with the help from the Adepti and the god of the stove. The god of the stove, yes, the huge, the mighty Guoba. To be fair to him though, he went by Marchosius at the time and he hadn't used up all of his powers yet, so he was gigantic. But then, after a time of happiness and peace, a war broke out over the nation. A war called the Archon War. If you don't know much about the Archon War yet, I suggest watching my other video going in detail about what caused it and what brought it to a close. But for now, I'll be telling it from Zhongli's perspective. Unfortunately, while Zhongli and Guizhong fought bravely side by side, the god of dust ended up perishing to the opposing gods. Afterwards, as a result of the battle, a massive flood swept through the Guili assembly, causing its complete destruction. Zhongli, now being the sole ruler of his people, but still with the help of Marchosius and the Adepti, assembled his people and marched south of Mount Tianheng, where he established the Liyue harbor as we know it today in-game. After that, Zhongli continued defending his people the best he could, and he did so without fail. Up first was the ancient god called Osial, but you've probably seen him before when you helped Ningguang seal him once again when he reawakened. Osial was a powerful god, even to the likes of Zhongli, being able to create enormous tsunamis as huge as the mountains of Liyue. Not much is known about the actual battle between Zhongli and Osial though, other than that the two traded blows and that Zhongli used his Vortex Vanquisher, yes, the 5-star polearm that you may or may not be using, to defeat the ancient god and pin him down to the bottom of the ocean. Next up was the dragon-like monster called Qi, which had made its nest in the area we now know as Qingze village and took control over the entire region. When Zhongli caught wind of this, they fought each other and ultimately Zhongli managed to slay Qi, releasing its grip from the region. However, even after perishing, Qi kept influencing the land around it. It is believed that its blood seeping through the ground feeds the trees, and that the area in which they grow are its eyes. And so, to dispel the Qi's remaining strength, Zhongli taught the people of Qingzhe village to create Geo statues which crushed the last bit of strength it had left. If you walk around the village right now in game, you'll still find a lot of these statues scattered all over the place. Fun fact, the claimer we know as Serpent Spine is actually said to be made out of the spine out of one of those creatures. Anyways, although Zhongli managed to slay these gods, binding them with his pillars, they began to rot and fester. They were slain, yet their souls remained immortal. Out of these pillars came dark, vile creatures, and they started terrorizing the region around it. In protection of his land, Zhongli summoned the Yakshas. One of these was Zhao, the only surviving Yaksha that we know of today. They swore an oath to return to peace, endlessly vanquishing these terrible creatures. After ages, cursed to battle with these demons forever, corruption started seeping into their souls, turning them mad, evil, or even turning them against each other. Out of the 5, 3 did not survive, and a 4th vanquished seemingly disappeared. Eventually, Zhongli met a giant dragon, and he gifted him sight, after which they became close friends, kinda comparable to the way Venti and Dvalin befriended each other if you've seen my other video about Venti. And this dragon, you may have guessed it, that's Eishdeha. At one point in time though, Eishdeha got affected by erosion. Erosion is a term and a story that I will cover in a video about Eishdeha himself, because his story is so long and it's also a unique one that truly deserves its own video. And so, Eishdeha turned against Zhongli and his people, forcing Zhongli's hand, making him seal the dragon back up, deep underground. Then, finally, at the end of the war, Zhongli was one of the 7 victors still standing. These 7 victors were very close, Venti was one among them. Out of the 7 Archons, currently only 2 of them remain, Barbatos, or Venti as we know him, and Zhongli, the other 5 either passing away or being replaced by new Archons. This explains why Venti and Zhongli are such close friends, as they are the only 2 remaining Archons who survived the war. When most events have passed, and Liyue started prospering once again, Zhongli started wondering if the people could fend for themselves, if Liyue could be godless. In short, he wanted to retire from his godly duties and see if the city would survive without him. And so, he made a contract with the current Cryo Archon called Tsaritsa to help him set up a plan to test if the people of Liyue would be able to fend for themselves. In return, he agreed to give up his noses to her. He then faked his death and created his vessel, Zhongli, to continue living undercover. And as we found out in-game, his plan worked, with Osial reawakening and the people of Liyue proving that they could fend for themselves. But we also found out that he did care after all, always being on standby, ready to jump in if his people turned out to need him. Ever since then, Zhongli has kept his low profile, working for Hu Tao at Wanshan Funeral Parlor as a consul. Although, once a year, during the Rite of the Descension he returns, giving guidance to the people of Liyue. And with that, Zhongli's story is concluded. For now.